Hello and welcome to the Southbound Sports Show. I'm your host, Richie Leahy, here with my co-host, Matty B, and got my office mat almost set up. They sent me the wrong size table. So if I end up falling out of this stupid chair that I'm sitting in, that's why. Because I'm in a makeshift. I was so close. I was so excited. I thought maybe I could finally have my recording studio kind of put back together. And it wasn't even the right color. Like, I just wanted a black table that was, like, tall enough that you could stand at. No, they shipped me a small brown one. Like, natural color. I'm like, did you even look at the box, man? So, I'll be living here. Hopefully, I can get my replacement soon. But that's where I'm at. That's why the video might look a little bit different. But we're going to be moving on. It wasn't even the worst week, Matt, that I could have had. Because De'Veon Smith had an even worse week. Former Michigan running back De'Veon Smith, he's been bouncing around pro leagues for a while now. I think when did he graduate in 2015? He was there whenever Harbaugh's first year, I believe, is whenever he played. And the one clip that I always remember him for is he like busts out of a hole against BYU and then just runs through their safety. And so I'm always like fond of him, and he never really stuck around in the NFL. He's like the type of player that was great in college, better than most running backs at a professional level, so he can play like in a league like the USFL, but just not quite there talent-wise for the NFL. So the type of guy that bounces around between like Canadian Football League and the AAFs and the XFLs, whatever have you. So I tried to look it up to find his stats in between, and ESPN has him as 0 stats in the NFL. Doesn't have any other professional leagues and stuff that you would think that they would put together. And I wish that there was a database like with football. They have like the Football Reference type thing, but it doesn't have all these other pro leagues. Because I'm always curious, kind of like a minor league guy, where you can look up Tim Tebow and say like, all right, this is how he did in single A, and then watch how he gets progressively worse. I want to know what the talent level is across these different leagues, right? So someone should put that together for me, because I'm not going to do it, right? As a coach, don't you think that'd be interesting?
It would be. Because
a lot of these guys I'm thinking are going to bounce back and forth between leagues like that. Hell, even like Johnny Manziel. Like, what league did he do the best in? Was it the CFL? But my man, he's working. They didn't even play a game yet. The weekend before the game, right? They go to have a team meeting. At least that's when it seemed like he got cut, because you can't even make this up. So he comes in, the coach and the team post this video of him having a coach meeting where he gets cut from the team.
It was like a league video though. It wasn't even from the team. It was like the USFL as a whole was like doing this documentary to like give you behind the scenes access.
That just gives you a look into that league, Matt. The best minds in the league put that together. They said, let me just see what video we can put together. And the video I'm talking about, they bring him in and they have to talk about an issue of him breaking team rules, which I want to state very clearly in the video. They say he broke one rule. They're like, yeah, you did a violation and we have a 0 tolerance policy, a one-time thing, you're out. And he said, I'll just talk about it. I asked for the pizza. And the coach didn't say anything like, no, that's not what I'm talking about here, son. He said, oh, yeah, that's it. So, and then De'Veon Smith trying to defend himself. And the coach was like, my decision's already made. You're cut. And the way he made it sound, because we haven't really heard all the details, I brought up the one-time thing because the USFL, did you see the latest statement they put out? Because it's continuing. This is what, Tuesday? This came out over the weekend. They put out a statement that said he broke 3 team rules in a 24-hour period, but in that video that the league released, it's very clear that he said it was like a one-time thing. They have a 0 tolerance policy. That's it. Why would he say that on video and then there be a hidden 2 other violations, you know? Because he didn't talk about any of them, because he could have easily said, well, you know, that's not the only thing, right?
Unless they were making it out to be that all 3 of them were in that same issue.
Well, that's what I'm wondering, if they're trying to like because in hindsight, they didn't know. I heard a lot of conspiracies on this telling me that, hey, they probably set this up on purpose to get publicity for the league. No one puts that together and says this is going to be good publicity. They put that together to show that their coaches mean business and this is a football first league. I guarantee that. Because that's how the video was set up, right? The entire thing was about how important football was and how they have no tolerance for off the field BS. And the way the video made it seem was they came into the team hotel and there was like a salad bar, chicken salad bar or something. And someone walked in carrying a bunch of pizzas. Most likely for the coach if you saw the video, right? At least one. I'm assuming those other two guys were coaches. I guarantee the pizza was for them. They were not eating chicken salads. But that one guy was like, I'm surprised he wasn't in a walker. He had to be 300 pounds. And I'm not even being rude about the guy's weight. I'm just telling you. Because he made it seem like the pizzas were for the coaches. And they asked if it was going to be a problem that they got to eat pizza and the players were stuck eating chicken salads. And he said, yeah, he wanted the pizza. And they were like, you're cut. That's disrespect right there. You're not going to take a coach's pizza. How many boxes did they have? They didn't say. Was it one tiny pizza? I doubt it. Because you're coach, Matt, and I know I've been in situations where the players are sitting over here, they're eating their whatever, their orange slices or something, like you're in AYSO soccer. And then the coaches are over there dining on like barbecued chicken. You're like, what the hell? What's going on here? Are you guilty of that, coach?
No. I eat last, but whatever was on the menu is what we eat.
So you're like the dumpster coach. Whatever,
I'm the dumpster.
Whatever's left over, you pick it up.
Yep.
Well, see, not here. Not with the Pittsburgh Marauders, right? They had pizza. Because the only way this makes sense to me, and maybe I'm wrong, if there's facts, send them to me. But the only thing that makes sense is that the coaches had pizza. They could tell that he was kind of pissed because they're probably doing training all day and they're hungry. And he comes in, he's like, oh yeah, you got to eat light for the game tomorrow. I think they played on Sunday. Or no, they played on Monday. So it wasn't even like a game day. And they were like, hey, I mean, they could have said something on the video like funny, like, hey, at least you're getting something healthy. In minor league baseball, you only get a slice of bread and some cheese. Like, there's chicken on that, band.
But see, I wasn't sure if they were saying chicken salad, like the mayonnaise, like type sandwich.
So you're saying a sandwich?
Just let me finish. I don't know if they were saying chicken salad, like the mayonnaise food that would make me absolutely throw up and starve myself, or if it was like a chicken salad, or it was like like a salad with like grilled chicken breast. Like,
so I didn't even think of that.
I would think the cheaper option would be the disgusting chicken salad.
They bring out a 10-pound tub.
Yes.
And they give you your bread, and you're like, what is this? Please be chicken and gravy in that bowl. And then it's because chicken salad. I know what you're talking about, and that would be disgusting.
Because I would throw up. I would literally throw up. Like, here's your lads.
I think you might be right. Because he said, I don't eat chicken salad. And so that made me think, like, you don't eat like any salad, man? Like, I would think at the college program, they're going to have like the nutrition there. Like, they're going to kind of make you eat healthy. I've seen some of the dudes like at Michigan. They're pretty much ripped after they go through their program. And that's pretty much like at any college. So you're not telling me, although let's be honest, I did see a training room D1 where a lot of it was like pre-made shakes. So they were drinking a lot of smoothies instead. Like natural, like juice smoothies, not like, hey, let me throw 3 packets of sugar in here and then a bunch of oranges and then say that's healthy. Like you're making yourself a Starbucks latte using only vegetables and extra sugar or something. But I don't know. You raise a good point, though, because I would not eat that either. Because it looks like it's just been sitting there. It's almost like I called you the dumpster coach. It's almost like you're eating dumpster food at that point. Where they're like, hey, we have a bunch of stuff that's going to go bad. Yeah, mix that together and put that on a piece of bread. I assume that's how they make that.
because they're like, "Is this going to be a problem?" And I agree. I would have said yes. That's going to be a problem if that's going to be my lunch.
And he said that was all he said was the word yes. Like, is this going to be a problem that you want the pizza? He's like, yeah, this is disgusting. He didn't even say that, though. He said he didn't swear, nothing. And coach didn't disagree with him. And there were 3 other guys in there. It wasn't like another coach was like, you know, man, I heard you. I was standing right there. It was my pizza. I was eating it. Which would have been even funnier looking at that guy. And they could have said something like, yo, did you need that pizza? You could have shared. I just ran 100-yard sprints, man. And you're feeding me this weird sandwich. So now I want to know the details.
But then the worst part is that with the way that the Mauler's offense was, the coach cuts his starting running back like a day before the game, and then proceeds to just get into these like jumbo 3-4 tight end sets, like no wide receivers, and run the football for no yards in the first half.
Well, he did say they were going to be a physical team, Matt. He said that before the season.
They were physical, all right. They didn't go anywhere, but they were physical.
I'm trying to see if I could find the quote because I brought it up to see if they had chicken salad. Although you're right, the very first image when I type in chicken salad, it's that weird chicken salad mix on like a croissant, and it's like, why would that be the first result? So I guarantee that you're right. I would put money on it. What did coach say? So then their statement said, hey, on the first episode of United by Football, I told you, this is a football first show. It's a weekly USFL all-access docuseries on Fox. It was shown, Devion Smith was cut, blah, blah. The show captures hundreds of hours of footage, but he had violated 3 team rules in a 24-hour span. And including this particular incident, disrespected a cafeteria worker that was not captured.
So what you're saying is that Michigan, if you go to Michigan, you're a habitual line stepper because it wasn't just one time; it was multiple times
in a 24-hour span. They just kept following him around with the chicken salad. But I don't even see
kind of like Peter.
Go ahead.
He's kind of like Peter. Then he denied Jesus 3 times. He was just like, "No, I'm not eating that chicken salad."
Because like the cafeteria worker, their job might have been make sure everyone gets a chicken salad sandwich.
They're going to eat this mayonnaise.
And he's like, you got to take it. I can't leave here until you take the sandwich. And he's like, it's going to be a problem. I said, yeah. I don't know. I feel bad for him, man. Because like, let's say Michigan men, they're all upstanding guys. Like they never get caught with like an AK-47 in their car or anything like that, or an Uzi, whatever that was. So I have to side with him, right? They're all like Tom Brady's, just winners on and off the field. So I would think that the man wanted some pizza. Get us some pizza. Plus, I would think pizza's cheaper. Although, like you said, if they want the cheap option, then I guess not.
Not for a 5-gallon drum of vomit.
It doesn't say what was in here. It just said when a staff member came in with pizza, Smith claimed he simply asked if he could have a slice. See, that's what makes it seem was for the coaches. Because like if they're on such a tight budget, their like assistants and like all their other like underlings that are helping run this football team, they're eating with the players. And they're probably getting leftovers, like you said. You're eating after the players. Players first, everyone else after, and then the coaches and like the other guys, they're going to probably be eating something different. Like I've had that happen where it's like, hey, you guys, you're at the Golden Corral tonight. And it's like, where are you guys going? Well, there's that steakhouse right across the street. We'll be there. Meet on the team bus at 7. It's like, oh, okay, that's weird. And so then the players are running through like a madhouse. And so I would assume that that's the same situation. Kirby Wilson came out and said he's already moved on from Smith, and he's happy that he did it. It doesn't say the running thing on here. I think that was in the video. So I don't have that quote. But that's crazy to me. It's a weird thing to talk about. You can tell it's the off season. Although not for them. It's really in season. And so what games did you watch this weekend? Because I honestly, I checked a couple out, but I didn't even watch anything really because it's Easter weekend, so busy.
Well, I was busy, but I also caught at least a little bit of all of them. And I'm going to be honest, because of the delays and the rainouts and different stuff like that, overall, it had closer to an AAF feel than an XFL. So I was a little bit disappointed, to be honest, just because there really wasn't much of a. There was some contrast, but there really wasn't as different style of offenses in this league, at least in week one, that we didn't see from like the previous XFL. Like I liked how you had Gene Jones running the Roughnecks, run and shoot, and the Renegades featured the air raid with Hal Mummy. Like I think they went the route of like trying to get the bigger, like well-known coaches that had different styles and different philosophies. And I thought, like, with that, it almost gave it an MMA type feel of like which style of offense is the best, and putting these people that swear by their offense and having them compete. I kind of like that compared to more of a cookie cutter, almost similar to NFL's style, where you have pretty much everyone running a comparable style offense.
And see, that's the one thing where I want to see some innovation. Like you said, what I've watched, yeah, you're seeing the same offense. And then what is going to make me tune in? You know? Like with college, a lot of people knock it, well, they're not as good. And like I think that's an argument for college basketball where, yeah, okay, if you like the NBA and you like seeing your players make all their shots if they're wide open for the most part, and then you go to college and it's like dudes missing layups and stuff. There's only so many offenses you can run in basketball and different styles that a lot of it is pretty much what the NBA is running. And so, yeah, I could see you being bored by that. Like, why would I watch this crappy, inferior product, you know? But then NFL comes and you're watching it, and then college football is totally different. You have dudes running the Wildcat. The NFL tries to even steal some of it. Then you can have like a option game versus like a air raid and all these different styles that are still successful and available for other teams. And not a lot of them run pro sets. So you're getting totally different styles of football 2 days apart. So to me, it never really feels like, hey, I'm burnt out. Sometimes the NFL feels like you're burnt out because if you watch Thursday and then they have that weekend where it's like Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and then you have like the 3 games on Sunday, 2 or 3 on Saturday, time slots. And then it's like, all right, well, I just watch all these type of games. They're all pretty much boring. A lot of them were only like 2 of them were good out of the handful that they played. And so that's where now you're looking at that same type of thing where, hey, you're going to watch 4 football games. They're kind of just like NFL garbage that's kind of like regurgitated, right?
Yeah, well, and I think from a player development standpoint, if they're going to use some of these spring league games as opportunities to showcase players, then it makes sense to use a variety of offensive styles. Like, you know, you have a team maybe that uses a North Dakota State style, like multiple power offense, where they're using fullbacks and tight ends. And like I think maybe you have that in some ways with the Maulers we're doing, but then you also have some of the sets where they're 2x2, 3x1, like more heavy wide receiver sets, and you're able to showcase. All right, with these teams, there's going to be more wide receiver focus. These teams are going to have more, running back focus, and maybe you highlight some of those players that it gives them a better chance to showcase what they're capable of to get picked up by the NFL, if that's an intention that they want it to be, to attract talent.
And that's where I'm not really sure what the purpose of the league is. Is it just to beat the XFL, right? Is it going to be where NBC, because it was on NBC, right? I guess it was spread out, huh? NBC had a bunch of them. I think there was one on Fox Sports.
Yep.
But I wonder if it's like that, because the way they made it seem was that this was going to be, they wanted it to be like how the NFL owns Thanksgiving or the NBA owns like Christmas, where they have all the games lined up. And I'm like, you played one game on Easter. Or two. Was it one or two?
It's supposed to be two, but then
They put the one on Monday, right?
But then it got rained out. Like, they had issues that the games didn't start on time.
Well, that's the one other stupid thing that I didn't like. I don't like how all the games are in Birmingham. Birmingham is in the, I don't want to say it's in the middle of nowhere, but compared to like other cities where people can, attend the games, they picked like a weird city. I don't know why they're fascinated with Birmingham as a football place, right? So Birmingham has a stadium, and I was curious because some of the games looked very empty. They were blaming it on the weather. That stadium supposedly holds up to 100,000 people, and I'm like, oh, well, that makes sense. That'd be like having a high school game at like the big house, and you're like, well, that looks like no one's even at that game. And you're like, yeah, but there was thousands of people there. I'm like, yeah, but they're in a gigantic stadium. You're not going to fill that. Like, why don't you do what the NBA does? Like, the NBA, they could build an indoor stadium that has 50,000 seats, but guess why they don't? Because they don't show up. They don't get fans to attend. Because that would just be dumb. So they have, a lot of them have like smaller, more intimate arenas. Like, look at Duke basketball. Tough to get tickets in. They're not going to expand because what if when Coach K is gone, are people going to go to the games? Like, they have no idea if people are going to go. And if the team starts to do bad and they can't rebound, because, like, there's no guarantee that Duke, even like in this era of paying players, is Duke really raking in the athletic money? I don't think so. The rest of their sports don't really do. They're not like Stanford level, right? So that's what I want to see. Find an arena in a city that actually can get people to attend. I don't know why, excuse me, they would go ahead and run that route. And I saw one of their like press releases where they said like, hey, 40,000 tickets were sold. And it's like, yeah, but how many of those were corporate? Oh, well, half of them were just like donations from whatever. So then they said that over the 4 games, 17,000 people scanned in. And I'm like, all right, well, that doesn't seem too bad. But how much were they? Like, were they $2 tickets, $5 tickets? And the stadium still looks empty on TV, so it looks bad. That's where I like the kind of the arena football. I don't even know where they could have put it into another city, but Birmingham only had, from when I looked it up, 200,000 people. And it's not like if you look at a map of like the United States, like there's a lot of cities in that area that can actually, drive there. Because it's like, oh yeah, we're going to put it, like I said, in the middle of nowhere. It would be like putting a games in Morgantown, West Virginia. And you're like, yeah, but look, West Virginia, they really love their college football, so it might work out. That's kind of why they picked Birmingham, right? They said like there's no pro teams there. The Roll Tide, they do a ton of games there, and Auburn does well, so they have to have football fans. But I just don't think it's going to work.
Well, they did have the Birmingham Iron in the AAF.
And I wasn't a fan of that either.
While you're dying, I think hindsight's always 20/20, but they could have looked for a venue that if you're gonna house all of your games during like all in one venue, maybe look at a dome setting so that it eliminates some of the weather aspects. Like, for example, maybe playing it in New Orleans at the Superdome or whatever, or in Georgia at the Mercedes-Benz, whatever that dome is. But like playing in a facility where knowing that you're running on a shortened time window and you're doing this pod type setup, that it's restricting travel, which I think was a good thing, because one of the issues that they had was with some of those other leagues was trying to navigate all the logistics of moving around, of getting all the different people to the venue. So having all in one pod type setup and having it in the same place, I think saves the league money, which was a smart move. But what ended up happening was they played in this open air stadium in Birmingham. It rains. It cancels out one of the games and has it moved to Monday. It has other games that are rain delayed and postponed, which I think is going to affect some of the draw, because if you have pockets of time where you're able to watch, but then the game's delayed, it's going to take away from your viewership. You're going to find other stuff to do, especially on a holiday weekend, and miss out on that extra viewership. I think they were around 3.5 million viewers for the weekend of game.
Yeah, and I thought the numbers would do well. I've said all along, I think spring football has a place because you're up there, baseball numbers keep going down, and you have football right there fill the void. But there has to be some type of, I think, excitement in the stands. I don't even know if a college, because the ones that have small, tight atmospheres like App State, they're going to also be in the middle of nowhere, right? So you're kind of trying to pick your poison. I almost wonder, what if they would have just did Orlando and tried to play it like UCF? Because then you would at least have, Tampa, Jacksonville. There are some other cities that are, only a couple hours drive away. The closest to Birmingham's Atlanta, and Nashville is even further. So it's all right, those are your biggest cities, and they're still going to be a hike. So, I would have liked to seen it in Florida. You're going to have better weather. And if you want that traditional football weather, just put it in Columbus in Ohio. Now, obviously not at the Shoe, because that would be ridiculous. But I'm sure that they could have another arena somewhere, something that they can play. And then you're kind of in the middle of those other cities. Hell, that's why they put Ohio State there, so that people could attend. And then if not, put it in Philly or New Jersey. Try to just put it in places where I think there are a lot of fans. And having the other teams, if you want the other teams, just get rid of their locations. If the Michigan people aren't going to play in Michigan, then why have them on the thing? Or same with the Pittsburgh ones. And if you wanted to do different towns, just put them close enough so you could drive them around. Have 2 pods. Have a North pod. Do Cincy, Columbus, Cleveland, and Pittsburgh. And then, or Detroit instead of one of those or something. And then do a Florida pod of Orlando, Jacksonville, Tampa, and Miami. Problem solved, Matt, right? Have them play 2 different places. I just think that it's going to be hard to be hey, I'm a fan of the Pittsburgh team. Go to any games? Well, no, I have to go to Alabama for that. Oh, you watch on TV? Yeah, I watch on TV a little bit, but our team kind of stunk. Our coach cut our guy because he wanted pizza instead of chicken salad, which still cracks me up, and I can't even believe it.
But I think you can but anymore, with how much the games are broadcast, I think they can broadcast them from anywhere, and you can still gain that same viewership. It's not like the 70s where if you didn't like the local team, you were screwed, and that's all. You weren't going to get to watch your favorite team if they were out west or down south, and you're in the north.
And that's why I wanted to see them just get rid of the locations, right? Add a different adjective or something, and then that way you can move the teams around every year. It doesn't matter where they are, because think of all the esports stuff they're always pushing. You don't know where the hell these teams are from or what they are. They're just one-namers though. Give them a crazy name. People don't know where Clemson is. Make a name up like that, and then just call them that, and then that will be their fans. Right? Why not? The Raging Cajuns, right?
I guess you could.
The Running Rebels, isn't that UNLV too? So you just have those. Those are real college teams. Just pick one like that and then go with it. And then what's the difference? They're already picking these generic names anyway. I know they were the older team names the Generals and the Panthers, right? Go ahead and get those up there. The Marauders, name that whatever, and then that could be Pittsburgh team. They're not even using the city of Pittsburgh's colors, so maybe there's a different team that Pittsburgh fans would cling on to, and they can tell hey, this market's getting this many viewers for this one team. They must really like this team. How about we have them play there next year? And then you can bounce around. That would be the modern approach. Like you said, it's not the 70s anymore. So if you don't like the local team, you can watch any game you want. People watch international soccer all the time. So the other thing they had, though, that I put on here, kicking trouble. So the one thing that I keep seeing, and I wonder how many of these are bots, right? Because like there are people posting the most positive things about the USFL and how it's the greatest league. And like that's all these accounts, like they have like names of like, hey, so-and-so Smith. It's like, all right, this guy only tweets about the XFL or USFL. That seems a little strange, right? And he's talking about how awesome it is and how the technology is game-changing. A lot of it was kind of just like the regular NBC broadcast. But the one thing that stood out to me is they were getting rid of the chain gang, right? Got to speed up the game.
Yep.
It's never, hey, let's do less commercials, right? It's always like, let's speed up the game, but we can take at least 3 seconds off the game. Because we probably, or what, it'd be a minute? They don't even do the chain gang that many times. How many times do the chains actually have to be brought out on the field in a regular game? 2? 3? Like, yeah. That's how much you're shaving off the clock? Like, and I've been on the wrong side of chain measurements. You know that for sure. So like, let's go ahead and try to speed it up and make it fair. It still depends on the spot. So like, are they using it for the spot too? And if so, can you review it? Because I didn't see that. I know, like I said, I didn't watch all of the games. Next week it'll probably be a better opportunity for that. But I want to see, like, if you're going to use it, don't half-ass it. Like, don't take out the human element, but keep the human element in, right? Because I think most people are complaining about, like, hey, the dude gets tackled. Where's the ball when he's down? And then it's like, well, we're going to spot it 4 yards behind that, right? And you're like, well, no, the chip was right there. And then they're like, oh, yeah, well, momentum. And then you're like back to where you were. It's kind of like the strike zone. Like, oh, that was a strike. Yeah, but that guy didn't call it because he was painting that corner all day, man. So you can't have that going out of the game, painting the corners. You know, having the catcher set them up. And the catchers are taught, like, hey, set up the ump. Move your glove. Don't move your glove. Like, you're better off just missing the ball and trying to frame it if there's no one on base. They're taught that. And it's like with the electronic one, it doesn't even matter. Catcher could be back there doing backflips. He could be eating a hot dog. Just catching the balls that ricochets off the back. Which would be funny, right? Maybe make it more look like a beer league. Because with the electronic umps, is there a guy behind him? I don't know. Do they still have a guy there? I haven't watched that much baseball to know. But kickers are complaining because they said the chip they're using is the size of a golf ball. And it's inside the ball. And I don't know how, like, I guess it's like tied in there right in the middle.
I have no idea.
Surely they don't have it bouncing around in the ball.
I could see it just rattling around, though, to be honest.
I don't know, though. I feel like they wouldn't do something that dumb. They're bitching about Tom Brady having like a little bit of deflate in his ball. So I would assume that somehow whenever they did the liner, they had like a hard piece of plastic like that went across that maybe has the chip on, which would still, depending on, because the laces are going to throw it off. I would think that that weight in the middle is going to throw off, where if you kick it a little bit off-centered, right, and you get a little sideways spin, that ball in the middle is going to take that way out of range. Because like in baseball, you put a little bit of spin on the ball, it goes crazy. You have a little awkward kick, a little bit of like a turn to your kick, and you're missing the field goal. And so I wonder, why so big? Right? They can't have better technology than what Apple's using for what air tags and stuff. Those are like little things. Are they the size of golf balls? I actually haven't seen one, so maybe I'm wrong, but like a little ear pod thing, they have them in there.
Well, I did see there was a considerable amount of misses, but I kind of just chalked that up initially to just being in rain type conditions, that opening weekend jitters and things like that would account for some of those misses. But because they saw your boy got cut for ordering pizza, they were like, they don't want to like make any comments about it to USFL officials because they're afraid they're going to get thrown out of the league for raising an issue with it.
It wasn't that he was disrespecting the cafeteria worker, Matt. Like you went through the cafeteria line and you're like, oh no, not this reheated pizza again. Or like, I guess that was a bad choice. Like, hey yo, we had toasted cheese yesterday. These the same sandwiches? And the lady's like, you hurt my feelings by saying that. There he's like, the chicken salad again?
Strike one.
How big was that bucket?
Strike two.
And then they're like, all right, yeah, I want the pizza. And they're like, is this going to be a problem? And he said, yeah.
Strike three.
And they're like, well, you're fired then. Well, hold on. We're not going to do it now. Let's get back to the hotel room and let's check this out. Check this out. We'll have two guys sitting there and then coach in these huge sweatpants like it's 1983, really bringing back the vibe of the original USFL. And we're going to cut you in that room on TV. And then we're going to do like an office type cut where he's talking directly to the camera saying like, I'm glad I did it. Then it will never backfire at all. So, I don't know. We'll see. I hope the league does well. I hope that the XFL learns from it. I assume that there's going to be a merger, though. And I hope that, like you said, we see the XFL come. Because the XFL is all about innovating. Even though they have like the NFL partnership stuff. There's no room for 3 spring leagues. I always complain about the minor league baseball. There's no room for all these minor league baseball leagues. If Major League Baseball wasn't funding them, they'd be bankrupt and out of commission already, right? Or they would just be paying. I mean, they already don't pay really any salary, so what's the difference? I mean, it's better than working to go play baseball for a while, but that's what I wonder. How long will they How long will they last, and how will it affect the NFL? Because I really don't think the NFL is going to look at this and be like, oh yeah, we're really worried about the USFL. Or they look at it and they're going to say, you know what, we do want to expand. Let's expand into Birmingham. That's not going to happen either. So, and where the other teams are, like they're not going to be like, hey, we do need 2 Pittsburgh teams. We need the Marauders. That's not going to happen. So I really don't know what the purpose of this league is other than, hey, we need a spring football. And let's hurry up and rush it out. And then try to beat the XFL. But to me, the XFL is always going to be the premier spring football league. What do you think?
Well, I need to know more about. I know the XFL announced who some of the coaches are, and I was surprised with Rod Woodson and Hines Ward getting nods there.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. Well, he has all the experience calling NBC games, doesn't he? Isn't that what Hines Ward has been doing with Doug Flutie?
Yeah.
I don't watch Notre Dame games, but I assume he's on there doing something.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think they have a variety of coaches, but I don't know as far as, like, if it's going to be, because they're trying to have that NFL partnership, if it's going to be just taking the NFL style offenses and just plugging that right in and treating it like that minor league type system.
And that's what we'll see coming up. Get into the NFL, though. The Tom Brady saga continues. Really, the only topic I have, because the NFL draft is next week, so this might not end up being a long show, but I know once I start talking about Tom Brady, who knows where this will go. But I said last week, it didn't make sense. Timing didn't make sense. So you still get these anonymous sources, Matt, that are still going. These reports. Hey, read this report on the Boston Globe. You have to subscribe to the Boston Globe, so like, who's going to read that? Because how the hell would the Boston Globe know what Tom Brady's up to? He doesn't go back to Boston. His family's from, like, California. Like, what do you think he does? He just goes there? And he's like, hey, I'm going to tell these beat writers what my top secret plan is. The Boston Globe. So, yeah, I'm sure that the Patriots aren't just leaking some random information. But now they're saying that, oh, well, Tom Brady was going to become an owner before this year's Super Bowl. It's like this past one. And then he was going to retire. I guess his contract would have ran out, and then he would have came back next year. Because I said on the show last week, I think it was last week, the timing didn't make sense. Like, he can't get out of his Buccaneers contract. He still has 1 more year on it. Now, he didn't extend with them. And so if he does have a plan, and I said everything made sense when you're talking about him moving from New England to Miami. Instead, he went to Tampa Bay. It didn't make sense for him to retire this year, become an owner of the Dolphins, and then come back And I mean, he would have had to force a trade to himself, right? I doubt he would have been like GM powers or whatever. So either way, it's going to work out where he wouldn't be playing with the Dolphins until next year. So it's all like it's a bunch of stuff mixed in with that lawsuit, and it just doesn't make sense still to me. Like, yeah, if that is what his plan next year, yeah, that would make sense to me. If you just said like, hey, we're hearing that the Buccaneers are gonna, Tom Brady's not gonna re-sign with them, and he's going to become an owner of the Dolphins after this season, I would say, all right, well, that makes sense. Right? I already talked about how close he is probably with Ross, the owner of the Dolphins, so why wouldn't he come into that Derek Jeter type scenario, right? Just wouldn't make sense. What are your thoughts on it? And do you think it would even matter if he came back like next year? He'd be 45, or is he already 45?
I think he's going to be 45.
So next year he'd be 46, even if they got Sean Payton, which we already talked about. Yeah, so he'll turn 45 this year. But like I said, I don't know where he would go. Like, Sean Payton's not going to come in and run a dynamic offense with Tom Brady. Tom Brady's going to run whatever offense he wants to run. So to me, that doesn't seem like, hey, better Super Bowl chance with that team, right? If you're a betting man, who would you pick? This Buccaneers team with players that he kind of already has a rapport with, and he's won a Super Bowl, or next year's fantasy team with the Dolphins, with Sean Payton and him being even older?
I mean, I don't think either is plausible at this point, but the lesser of the evils is going to be staying in Tampa.
Well, I'm just saying for this year. Like, I think this year's team, in terms of percentages, that's going to have a better chance at the Super Bowl. Next year, if he goes to the Dolphins, I think he has a considerably lesser chance. There are other teams out there that he could go to that are in better positions to win a Super Bowl next year at his age. Because you got to factor in, he's going to have a bunch of young guys there. Dolphins have been like rebuilding young, and they do have some talent. And it's probably a little bit better talent than what Tampa Bay had when he came in, but he was also younger and he brought guys with him. So is he going to be able to bring those guys with him to Miami? But yeah, now Bruce Arians, he's like all for the Buccaneers. Remember, he was gonna, he came out and said, because he's like part of their front office or whatever, he said it would take 5 first-round picks for him to trade Tom Brady. And to me, I'm like, that doesn't make sense because Tom Brady could get you a Super Bowl this year. Like, are you willing to do that deal with the devil if you're a good enough team and you're looking at it and you're saying, well, Tom's going to go with the Dolphins. We could try to buy him for 1 year. And he didn't say he was looking to trade him. But I wouldn't even be surprised if Tom Brady wouldn't it be funny if Arians was so pissed at Tom Brady that he ended up just working out a front office deal to get rid of him and he went and won a Super Bowl with someone else? Like the 49ers, because they're already mad at like Deebo Samuel. Or Deebo Samuel wants out of there, and they're like, hey, Deebo, please resign. We'll get Tom Brady right now. We'll give him Trey Lance. We'll give him 5 first-round picks. Garoppolo. We'll give him both our guys because we don't really care for either of them, to be honest. Because if they really cared about Lance, he would have already been playing. Instead of like, we got to get rid of Garoppolo, but yeah, he's still better than Lance because we keep playing him, right?
Deebo Samuel, though, he wants to move on from San Francisco. He said, I'd love to play for the Falcons and demand to be traded for a 6th-round pick.
Did he say he wants to play with the Falcons?
Yeah.
Who's even their quarterback?
It's whoever they draft this year.
Why would he want? I guess did he play? Where is he from? South Carolina?
I think.
So he's like, maybe he's from that area? Which, yeah, why not? He probably thinks 49ers office is a mess. We've known that. So he sees that happening. Every year they're like, hey, our quarterback really sucks. And we're going to start going with our backup. But not yet. Our backup's not good either. But we really don't want people to know that. And so it's like, because if he was good, they would just bench Garoppolo and move him at backup prices, right? Instead, Garoppolo's winning playoff games, doing all this stuff, and they're like, yep, this is the year we're finally not playing you. This is going to be it. Like, we can't keep doing this. We can't keep winning games. It's almost like what the Eagles did when they went with Wentz. They're like, get out of here. You're perfect for our system, fools. We're going to go trade you to another team, and they're going to try to make you fit into their system, which won't work. But we definitely don't need you here with our system. And then Wentz doesn't fit that system either. So then they're like, we got to fire our coach. We got to keep firing coaches. They're like, yeah, but if you go and just kept Foles and traded Wentz when his stock was high, you could have won maybe two or three Super Bowls with Foles. Right?
Yeah.
It's like, hey, we're going to win the Super Bowl. Let's trade the guy that won it. And we're going to try to rebuild with this backup. And then he ended up sucking. And now the Eagles have been sucking. So go with the winning hand. That's why Tom Brady. If the Buccaneers, even if they trade him for 5 first-round picks, guess what? You're already out of the Super Bowl next year. Like, no one will be picking you. People only bet on them because of Tom Brady being there. I don't know where he could go now with Denver getting Russell Wilson. I don't think they would have moved him. Wouldn't that be funny? Though if the Broncos traded for Tom Brady too. Like a 1-year thing. And then he's like, yeah, you know what? That's going to be it. I'll win a Super Bowl with you guys too. And then Peyton Manning would somewhere be like, no, I was the Broncos guy. Me and John Elway. Now Tom has to have a picture here. He's like, that's not fair. I don't know where else he would go. But that's all I have on the situation. You got anything else on Tom Brady?
No.
The Packers signed Sammy Watkins, Matt. Did you see that deal?
Yes.
I like that. I always like Sammy Watkins. And they were like making a big deal about it because they were like, hasn't been good. I'm like, Patrick Mahomes never really looked his way though. Like he always keyed in on Kelsey or Hill. It's not like Watkins was bad. He just kept getting injured. So I think the same upside for him applies now where he's only 20-something, I think. So don't get injured. And playing with Aaron Rodgers, is he going to have a lesser chance of getting injured? Like, no. He could still get injured the very first week. But I do like the pickup. And it looks like they're going to go through the draft and try to fill out their receivers that way. Because I don't know how much other movement there's going to be. What was the other one? The Panthers down here, they're looking not to make a quarterback move before the draft. They named Sam Darnold their starting quarterback today because, you know, Matt, they're going through heavy practices right now. The quarterback battle's already over. Sam Darnold's the quarterback. I'm like, oh, you're not trying to get Baker Mayfield? It's like you've been talking about for the past 2 weeks? And then you said, let's wait and see how the draft plays out because the Browns must be asking for like a ton of draft picks. So if the Panthers get rid of the draft picks by going through the draft and then trade for them, they'll probably end up winning that draft trade, I would imagine. Because they kept saying, like, the Browns, he's a former number 1, so you know we got to get some high picks for him. And I'm like, yeah, but you're already pushing him out for Watson. Like, where are you going to go from that? So, I don't know. Did Cole Beasley get signed yet?
No, he was being speculated to Pittsburgh. But they just signed Miles Boykin off the Ravens.
Yeah, but that's not as big as Cole Beasley. He had 3 broken ribs last year, Matt. He played through it.
Yeah, because he was unvaccinated.
I know, and they keep saying, like, hey, why isn't he signing with the team? And it's like, yeah, they know. Because has a veteran salary, which is going to be really tough to pay. And now he always had that COVID vaccine stance issue. And so, like, yeah, that's why I said, don't be surprised if he ends up falling to the Packers. Because Aaron Rodgers had that same issue, remember, where he faked it? He's like, I'm vaccinated, or whatever he said. It's like, I forget how he phrased it, but it was dumb. And I'm like, how doesn't even make any sense, man? Like, just make sense. Please, make sense. I was like, that's what I want, like, out of my guys. Like, come on, make sense. And people are saying that he's skipping voluntary workouts. And Matt, if you're a player and you're like at your age, because he's probably around your age, right? Would you go to voluntary stuff? Like if work said, hey, we have this voluntary work day, would you go into that?
If I was a multi-million-dollar athlete?
No, you wouldn't go in. Just say you want to go in, Matt.
I'd go in.
I wouldn't go in. There's no way you would go in.
I would go in.
Ben Roethlisberger, did he even go in any of those? Wasn't the team working out that one year and he sent those weird videos in where just as he went to throw, the ball cut and it immediately went to the receiver's hands, and I was like, bro, he's not even throwing the ball. And these videos.
Yes. And that's why he only won 2 Super Bowls when he had a stacked deck.
Did Peyton Manning only win 2?
The defense won 2.
Wait, for who? Both?
Yes, in both of his Super Bowls.
Yeah, but which quarterback? Both guys? I'm saying Roethlisberger and Manning?
Yes. Take all the Mannings.
Whoa. Eli played lights out. He was throwing the ball so spot on that it was getting stuck on their helmets like he's playing Little Giants, baby.
Yeah. For Eli to win a Super Bowl, he got drunk and threw the ball as high and as far as he could and stuck it on Tyreek's head.
And Mario Manningham, I don't know if it's the same Super Bowl, you got to have a Michigan guy making a big play, right? So I can't knock him for that. Plus, he beat Tom Brady twice. So that's up there in legendary status. Think of how many more he would have had if he played for a better franchise. The Giants are a mess. What if he had been the Packers quarterback? Aaron Rodgers only has 1.
Well, then they wouldn't have had any.
That's why they're like, I saw something where it's like, hey, the Packers know that wide receivers are not valuable. That's why they're not getting Aaron Rodgers any help. I'm like, no, Aaron Rodgers already got all the money, so they really don't have any cap space. That's why they're not getting him any help. Like, what are you talking about? Don't try to devalue the position. Meanwhile, the Chiefs are like stacking up on wide receivers left and right, and then people are like, why is their offense so good? It's unfair. It's not really how much Patrick Mahomes is doing. It's because he has all these weapons, and they're not getting rid of them. I guess Hill's gone, though, too, huh? Is he with the Dolphins, though? Where'd Hill go? He go to the Jaguars, huh? I keep mixing up what team he went to.
Yeah, I want to say Jags because they were on a spree. They're determined not to be defined by.
Oh no, he's with the Dolphins. So he's only going to help. Gesicki said that Hill is only going to help the offense. Really? Great quote there by a legendary Penn State guy, Matt. Like, hey, we've spent all this money to get this guy, and he comes out, he's like, the only thing he can do is help this offense. Great pop in there. Anything else you have for the NFL?
No, excited for the draft coming up.
We'll get into it. This week's show will be kind of a little bit shorter because I'm dying from allergies, man. Next week, hopefully, I'm better, and the draft is going to really get into it because I think it's going to be a big one, especially because Pittsburgh doesn't know what quarterbacks it has and which direction they're going. There are a lot of other moving parts, like what's going to happen. There are still 2 quarterbacks. I still think my man Baker Mayfield, which I'm still behind him. Everyone's saying, well, Deshaun Watson is better. Like, okay, he might be better, but I wouldn't write out Baker yet. And you don't know if Deshaun's even going to be successful. He's had off-the-field issues. Like, they just decided not to prosecute him. They didn't say that anything else could come of it or whatever. So the NFL still hasn't cleared him. They haven't done their due diligence, so let's see what happens there. And I think that's why the Browns are also hesitant. Could you imagine if they traded for a guy, traded away their other quarterback, and he wasn't cleared before the draft? Or even after? Right? So I wouldn't even be surprised if like it came into July, they put a approval on Watson, and then they traded him maybe to the Panthers, maybe somewhere else. And then it just opened things up. Because I still think Garoppolo has to move too. I don't think the 49ers can go one more year. People are saying that Jordan Love might have to move from the Packers too, which maybe that will open some things up because you went with Aaron Rodgers this long. And maybe that's right. I don't know.
In today's NFL, you're an idiot if you don't have a really good backup quarterback. Because if you're putting your whole season on Aaron Rodgers or Kyler Murray or Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, Murray, he wanted out too.
Hell, even with Baker. And then he gets injured and banged up because he's scrambling around. And if you don't have a quality backup and you're getting hit in the head with Mason Rudolph, you're not going to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, but I'm saying the reason, like, I think those guys are moving, locker room. How can you go from like playing? You watch Baker play through the pain, win the locker room for you, and then he's going to be sitting on the bench, and this other guy's coming in. And is he even going to compete? Like, we have no idea what his mindset is coming in. He hasn't been in the league. And then same with the 49ers. You have a guy, Lance, coming in, and if they bench Garoppolo, the players are going to be like, Garoppolo is winning us games. Like, he might make a bonehead mistake, but like, look at all these mistakes Lance is making. Like, this is embarrassing. Like, what are we doing here? And I think it's the same thing with like the Steelers. Like, when Mason Rudolph got hit in the head, I think like he kind of lost the locker room, and you could kind of just see his downfall after that. And like I said, I think the best move for him would have been to get out of Pittsburgh and maybe get some respectability back. But I don't think there's any chance of him beating out Trubisky. I think the Steelers right now, after the tragedy, I think it's just him and whoever they get in the draft. And hopefully it's Malik Willis, right? Or hell, Kenny Pickett. I like Pickett. I don't know. Final bell stuff. College football spring games are still going on. Nick Saban's still complaining about paying players. And I saw this. Did you see this new report that came out where they said that the going rate for a 3-star is like $500,000, and like a 4-star is creeping up close to like a wide receiver just got $1 million deal over 4 years, which is not like a $4 million upfront. I don't think they're doing the deals so that they're 4-year deals. So you get like $250 a year if it's $1 million, right? So you're going to get taxed pretty hard. And what they would take home, what, 2/3 of that? So 100 something, which isn't bad, but you're nowhere near being set for life, right?
Right.
So yeah, you might be able to pay off your house or whatever. Hopefully, they're giving like these guys some investments, but I think that's shot up way above what everyone was anticipating when they were talking about like, oh, 40 grand here, 50 grand here. I saw Notre Dame really picking up a lot of recruits because I just noticed whenever they battle a lot of Michigan guys, like high academics, and like we just get a lot of the same guys from the same area. But Notre Dame's really been picking them up, so I wonder if they're starting to get their deals worked out because they've been winning a lot of battles across top schools. Is it going to be enough to get them into that talent range, into the top 5 or so? I don't know.
They're just recruiting because they don't have Brian Kelly there anymore.
Which, did you see Coach O go there and give that weird speech about them being national champs? It's like, wait, you want a job there?
He's going everywhere. He was at Miami for a while.
Well, I think his sons were there or something. Are they enrolled at Notre Dame? And everyone was like, look, he took a shot at Brian Kelly. I'm like, did he really take a shot at him? He just said that he hoped I think his sons were national champs. Like, well, yeah, wouldn't you want your sons to win? Like, could you imagine if he went there and was like, hey, you guys aren't going to win because I'm not coaching here.
unless you sign me, you'll lose.
Yeah, you should bring me on. Which, to be honest, the first time coach, I wouldn't be surprised why they didn't. I guess he had his scandals and stuff too. Which, speaking of scandals, the Joe Paterno stuff, they had that new documentary on him. And I thought, oh, did I make a mistake last week defending Penn State? Because, like, why would I ever do that? You know? And then I'm like, the documentary might have some new stuff, but I didn't watch it yet. But from what I've read, it didn't seem like there was anything on that other story that was the Hodney story. I don't even know how to pronounce that guy's name. Yeah,
it's Hodney.
Which I did read, and not the whole thing because it was very long. And I kind of got bored halfway through because they wrote it like you're reading a diary almost, right? Like all these interviews.
Like he's in jail, and now he's out of jail, and now he's back in jail.
Yes, I was like, what am I doing here? Why don't you just summarize this? This could have been written in like 1,000 or 2,000 words. Like, I don't even know how many are on there, but I'm like, I looked at them like a third of the way through. So eventually I'll read it all, and if I change my mind, I'll bring it up on the show. But that's all I had for the final bill. Did you have anything for the final bill?
I mean, just to piggyback off of that, I did end up watching that show last night, and it just what I don't understand is how they're like randomly. It's like they're picking a scab, and I don't know who has a hard on to like throw Penn State under the bus, but it's like there was nothing for the longest time after like the Sandusky trials, and then it's like, hey, before Sandusky there was Hodney, and then I thought maybe they were bringing up the Hodney story because they were gonna like dig more into it with this other documentary, but then they just kind of brushed over. They're like, oh yeah, they had this other guy that got into some issues and we wrote a story about it, but like it really didn't connect all those pieces together, and like it made Penn State look bad because they showed an interview with James Franklin where they asked like his take, and it was a no-win situation because if he comes out publicly and says and defends Joe Paterno, then it was he's supporting a guy that allowed Sandusky to prey on minors. But if he doesn't, that's like, well, he's hitting the coach that built the program into what it is today. So like he was in a no-win situation. I think it was tough. Like whoever is producing this is definitely just like, how can we bury Penn State?
Yeah, you know what? That is a problem with me, Joe Paul apologists like you, now that I hear you say it out loud. So I'm going to have to agree with ESPN. I hope they keep digging, Matt. I do want to know, did they talk about the DA and the missing hard drive?
No.
That's the missing piece in this entire thing, which I don't understand why no one ever brings it up. Like they were investigating Sandusky in like early before this entire thing happened. I think like late 90s, early 2000s or whatever. The DA went missing. They found his laptop with the hard drive out of it. Like the hard drive is gone. And he's probably murdered. Because why would he just take the hard drive and disappear? Like if you're the guy investigating it, people made it seem like he disappeared and took a new identity, which maybe he did. Maybe Penn State helped him. I don't know. But like I just wondered, like that's the missing piece they never talk about. Like the actual interesting thing, which should be on all Unsolved Mysteries. Do you hear how much about what's the guy from the Teamsters, Matt? Shit, now I'm drawing a blank on my man.
Jimmy Hoffa.
Yeah, Jimmy Hoffa. You keep hearing about Jimmy Hoffa and how they're like digging up bridges and trying to find him like in the cement or whatever. It's like, hey, what about this other guy? Like, did they ever find him? I don't think so. Maybe they did find him, but they haven't found the hard drive. It's like they found his car in the middle of nowhere, like in by a river or something. So it's like, what was he doing? Like, he definitely didn't drive out there and to disappear. So that's how I'm leaving the show. Do your own digging if you want to look into it, because I'm sure ESPN's not going to stop. I don't know why. Maybe they get tons of ratings on it. It's probably some self-hate from Penn State fans watching it, though. Because I guarantee they're going to be like, what did they find this time? It's the same stuff, right? There's nothing new in it. Otherwise, they would have been breaking news like 10 years ago. So, thanks for listening. Get ready for the NFL draft. We'll be hitting that next week, and we'll see you then.